Welcome. Let's talk about PT today. It is one of the topics that I get tons of questions about, and many applicants are really anxious about it. They're not sure what to expect, and I just wanted to break it down. So we're going to talk a little bit about the schedule, about the requirements for the final, the different topics that you are going to learn about, and some of the certifications that you are going to get. So first of all, when you first arrive at Artesia, you are not going to have PT right away. They're not going to PT you when you get off the bus. They're not going to PT you outside of the PT class. You're not going to be, PT'd for making an error when you're walking down the sidewalk. So PT happens only within that particular class. So you will have PT pretty much every day at the academy after the first few days until your final exam. After you have your final exam, you won't be having PT anymore. So your PT class lasts about 2 hours, and generally you spend about half of that time on physical conditioning, which includes things like sprints, formation runs, lots and lots of calisthenics, exercises that improve your agility. You might go to the weight room and do a strength circuit some days, generally maybe 1 to 2 days a week, depending on the schedule, and lots of mat room. The other hour you'll be spending learning different topics and techniques. So defensive tactics and arrest techniques are the topics that take up the most of time after the physical conditioning, and they're pretty important for the job. They're things like restraining subjects, searching, weapon retention, removing visible weapons from the suspect. You'll learn ground defense, takedowns, what to do if somebody tries to choke you. But the most important thing, I think, in these topics is use of force. You really need to know when you can use the different weapons that you have at your disposal. So when to use lethal force, when to use less than lethal. And there are some written tests related to those things, also related to the certifications that you have, but that's pretty much the only written things that you're going to be doing in the PT course. What surprises people sometimes is the amount of time spent on first aid, CPR, tactical CPR, AED. But if you think about the environment that we work in, how remote and rugged the terrain is, how far away backup is often, it makes sense that each agent be able to have a decent level of basic CPR, basic first aid, and be able to use an AED. So you will possibly be learning some tactical things like tourniquets and things that you might not use or might not have used if you have a civilian CPR certification. Sometimes people ask, well, if I'm already CPR certified, can I skip that part? No, everybody goes through all of the different parts of the academy, and that also includes OC spray. So let's say that you were a prior police officer, or maybe you were certified through your state or a different agency. It doesn't count. Border Patrol wants you to have Border Patrol OC certification, and that's a question that pops up often. So other things that you will be learning during PT and the learning portion of your class are less than lethal weapons. You'll be getting certified on the collapsible steel baton, OC spray, and taser. And those things, I believe that each have a written component also. The thing about OC spray is there's a lot of apprehension, there's a lot of anxiety building up to that day, because it is a painful exercise to be OC sprayed, and it's just something that you have to get through. One of the things that you will notice is any of your classmates that have been maybe considering whether or not they wanted to quit the academy generally do so within the day or two before the OC spray. So after your class has been exposed to OC spray, most of those people are going to continue on. And that's kind of like the dividing line of, who's going to continue in the academy and who's going to quit, would be like the day or two before that. So next, additional training. So there is a swim portion of the academy, which some applicants that are non-swimmers or poor swimmers get anxious about. But it's all in a pool. There are plenty of instructors there to help make sure that everyone stays safe. The requirements are very minimum. It's basically, pass, fail, you do this stuff or you don't do this stuff. I have not ever heard of anybody failing because of swimming, but I suppose it is possible, maybe if you have a water phobia or something. But they will put the non-swimmers in the shallow end, and you will kind of work up to be able to, make your way across the pool and do some different activities where you're using like pieces of your uniform to help you float in the case that, maybe you find yourself in the river or a tank or a pond, lake, channel, I guess, canal. There's a lot of different places that, you could accidentally end up in the water, but they do teach you those different techniques to, help stay afloat, how to, potentially aid someone else that might be in the water, and what not to do, if somebody's drowning. So that's all really helpful information. They have taken that portion and really shortened it down. So don't expect to be swimming for, several weeks. It's just a short little portion of the academy. Same thing with edged weapons. Edged weapons is another interesting additional training that there's just a short little tidbit on. And finally, the assessment. So how are you going to be assessed? First, when you get there, within the first couple of days, you'll have a initial benchmark, and that really just gauges where you are. Where is your run time? Where is your sprint? How many push-ups and sit-ups are you able to do? And if you are not able to meet the final requirements to pass the academy during that initial benchmark, it doesn't count against you. Your PT instructors are not necessarily going to be happy, but for the most part, the majority of classes are not arriving at the academy with all of the trainees able to pass the final. So that is a misconception that a lot of people have, that they're going to fail that initial benchmark right away and it's going to set them back. It's not. The next is a midterm, and the midterm is really another benchmark. So if you fail the midterm, you are not going to fail out of the academy. The midterm is really just to see that you've made progress since the initial PT benchmark. So that's really what they're looking for. So the only assessment that actually counts and can affect your job is the final. And the final is the 1.5 mile run, the C course, the sprint, push-ups and sit-ups. Sometimes they also do maybe like a leap. They used to do like a flexibility. I don't think they do that one anymore. But the ones that can fail you are these right here. So that is how you'll be assessed. I hope this was helpful. Subscribe if you'd like more information about the academy, PT, different topics, hiring process, all those good things. Thank you.